David ruled over all Israel, and he made good and fair decisions for all of his people. Joab, son of Zeruiah, was the captain over the army. Jehoshaphat, son of Ahilud, was the historian. Zadok, son of Ahitub, and Ahimelech, son of Abiathar, were priests. Sariah was secretary. Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, was in charge of the Kerethites and Pelethites, and David's sons were priests. David was king over all Israel. He did what was right and fair for everyone. Joab, son of Zeruiah, was the commander of David's army. Jehoshaphat, son of Ahilud, wrote about the things David did. Zadok and Abimelech were the priests. Zadok was Ahitub's son, and Abimelech was Abiathar's son. Shavsha was the scribe. Benaiah was responsible for leading the Kerethite and Pelethites. Benaiah was Jehoiada's son, and David's sons were important officials. They served at King David's side. Levi's sons were Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. The names of Gershon's sons were Libni and Shimei. Kohath's sons were Amram, Izhar, Hebron, and Uzziel. Merari's sons were Mali and Mushi. This is a list of the families in the tribe of Levi. They are listed with their fathers' names first. These were Gershon's descendants. Libni was Gershon's son. Jahath was Libni's son. Zimmah was Jahath's son. Joah was Zimmah's son. Iddo was Joah's son. Zerah was Iddo's son. Jeatheri was Zerah's son. These were Kohath's descendants. Aminadab was Kohath's son. Korah was Aminadab's son. Asir was Korah's son. Elkanah was Asir's son. Abiasaph was Elkanah's son. Asir was Abiasaph's son. Taath was Asir's son. Uriel was Taath's son. Uzziah was Uriel's son. Shaul was Uzziah's son. Elkanah's sons were Amasai and Ahimath. Zophai was Elkanah's son. Naath was Zophai's son. Eliab was Nahath's son. Jeroham was Eliab's son. Elkanah was Jehoram's son. Samuel was Elkanah's son. Samuel's sons were his oldest son Joel and Abijah. These are Merari's sons. Mali was Merari's son. Libni was Mali's son. Shimei was Libni's son, and Uzzah was Shimei's son. Shimei was Uzzah's son. Haggiah was Shimei's son. Asaiah was Haggaiah's son. These were Aaron's sons. Eleazar was Aaron's son. Phinehas was Eleazar's son. Abishua was Phinehas's son. Bukai was Abishua's son. Uzai was Bukai's son. Zerahiah was Uzai's son. Marioth was Zariah's son. Amariah was Marioth's son. Ahitub was Amariah's son. Zadok was Ahitub's son. Ahimaaz was Zadok's son. These are the men David chose to take care of the music at the tent of the Lord's house after God's holy box was put there. These men served by singing at the holy tent. The holy tent is also called the meeting tent. These men served until Solomon built the Lord's temple in Jerusalem. They served by following the rules given to them for their work. These are the names of the men and their sons who served with music. The descendants from the Kohath family were Heman, the singer, who was Joel's son. Joel was Samuel's son. Samuel was Elkanah's son. Elkanah was Jehoram's son. Jehoram was Eliel's son. Eliel was Toah's son. Toah was Zuph's son. Zuph was Elkanah's son. Elkanah was Maath's son. Maath was Amasai's son. Amasai was Elkanah's son. Elkanah was Joel's son. Joel was Azariah's son. Azariah was Zephaniah's son. Zephaniah was Taath's son. Taath was Asir's son. Asir was Abiasaph's son. Abiasaph was Korah's son. Korah was Izhar's son. Izhar was Kohath's son. Kohath was Levi's son. Levi was Israel's son. Heman's relative was Asaph. Asaph served by Heman's right side. Asaph was Berechiah's son. Berechiah was Shemaiah's son. Shemaiah was Michael's son. Michael was Baaseiah's son. Baaseiah was Malchijah's son. Malchijah was Ethnai's son. Ethni was Zerah's son. Zerah was Adiah's son. Adiah was Ethan's son. Ethan was Zimah's son. Zimah was Shimei's son. Shimei was Jahath's son. Jahath was Gershon's son. Gershon was Levi's son. Merari's descendants were the relatives of Heman and Asaph. They were the singing group on Heman's left side. Ethan was Kishai's son. Kishai was Abdi's son. Abdi was Malach's son. Malach was Hashabiah's son. Hashabiah was Amaziah's son. Amaziah was Hilkiah's son. Hilkiah was Amzai's son. Amzai was Benai's son. Benai was Shemir's son. Shemir was Malai's son. Mahli was Mushai's son. Mushai was Merari's son. Merari was Levi's son. Heman and Asaph's brothers were from the tribe of Levi. The tribe of Levi was also called Levites. The Levites were chosen to do the work in the holy tent. The holy tent was God's house. David asked, "Is there anyone still left in Saul's family? I want to show kindness to this person. I want to do it for Jonathan." There was a servant named Ziba from Saul's family. David's servants called Ziba to David. King David said to Ziba, "Are you Ziba?" Ziba said, "Yes, I am your servant Ziba." The king said, "Is there anyone left in Saul's family? I want to show God's kindness to this person." Ziba said to King David, "Jonathan has a son still living. He is crippled in both feet." The king said to Ziba, "Where is this son?" Ziba said to the king, "He is at the house of Machir, son of Ammiel, in Lo-debar." Then King David sent some of his officers to Lo-debar to bring Jonathan's son from the house of Machir, son of Ammiel. Jonathan's son Mephibosheth came to David and bowed with his face low to the floor. David said, "Mephibosheth." Mephibosheth said, "Yes, sir, it is I, your servant, Mephibosheth." David said to Mephibosheth, "Don't be afraid. I will be kind to you because of your father Jonathan. I will give back to you all the land of your grandfather Saul, and you will always be able to eat at my table." Mephibosheth bowed to David again, and he said, "I am no better than a dead dog, but you are being very kind to me." Then King David called Saul's servant Ziba and said, "I have given Saul's family and everything he owns to your master's grandson, Mephibosheth. You will farm the land for Mephibosheth. Your sons and servants will do this for him. You will harvest the crops. Then your master's grandson will have plenty of food to eat, but Mephibosheth will always be allowed to eat at my table." Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants. He said to King David, "I am your servant. I will do everything that my lord the king commands." So Mephibosheth ate at David's table like one of the king's sons. Mephibosheth had a young son named Micah. All the people in Ziba's family became Mephibosheth's servants. Mephibosheth lived in Jerusalem. He was crippled in both feet, and every day he ate at the king's table. Later King Nahash of the Ammonites died. His son Hanan became the new king after him. David said, "Nahash was kind to me, so I will be kind to his son Hanan." So David sent his officers to comfort Hanan about his father's death. David's officers went to the land of the Ammonites, but the Ammonite leaders said to Hanan, their lord, "Do you think that David is trying to honor your father by sending some men to comfort you? No. David sent these men to spy on your city. They planned to make war against you." So Hanan took David's officers and shaved off 1/2 of their beards. He cut off their clothes at the hips. Then he sent them away. When the people told David, he sent messengers to meet his officers. He did this because these men were very ashamed. King David said, "Wait at Jericho until your beards grow again, then come back home." The Ammonites saw that they had become David's enemies, so they hired Arameans from Beth Rehob and Zobah. There were 20,000 Aramean foot soldiers. The Ammonites also hired the king of Makkah with 1,000 men and 12,000 men from Tob. David heard about this, so he sent Joab and the whole army of powerful men. The Ammonites came out and got ready for battle. They stood at the city gate. The Arameans from Zobah and Rehob and the men from Tob and Makkah did not stand together with the Ammonites in the field. Joab saw that there were enemies in front of him and behind him, so he chose some of the best Israelite soldiers and lined them up for battle against the Arameans. Then Joab gave the other men to his brother Abishai to lead against the Ammonites. Joab said to Abishai, "If the Arameans are too strong for me, you will help me. If the Ammonites are too strong for you, I will come to help you. Be strong, and let us fight bravely for our people and for the cities of our God. The Lord will do what he decides is right." Then Joab and his men attacked the Arameans. The Arameans ran away from Joab and his men. The Ammonites saw that the Arameans were running away, so they ran away from Abishai and went back to their city. So Joab came back from the battle with the Ammonites and went back to Jerusalem. When the Arameans saw that the Israelites had defeated them, they came together into one big army. Hadadezer sent messengers to bring the Arameans who lived on the other side of the Euphrates River. These Arameans came to Helam. Their leader was Shobab, the captain of Hadadezer's army. When David heard about this, he gathered all the Israelites together. They crossed over the Jordan River and went to Helam. There, the Arameans prepared for battle and attacked, but David defeated them, and they ran from the Israelites. David killed 700 chariot drivers and 40,000 horse soldiers, as well as Shobach, the captain of the Aramean army. The kings who served Hadadezer saw that the Israelites had defeated them, so they made peace with the Israelites and became their servants. The Arameans were afraid to help the Ammonites again. Nahash was king of the Ammonites. When Nahash died, his son became the new king. Then David said, "Nahash was kind to me, so I will be kind to Hanun, Nahash's son." So David sent messengers to comfort Hanun about the death of his father. David's messengers went to the country of Ammon to comfort Hanun. But the Ammonite leaders said to Hanun, "Don't be fooled. David didn't really send those men to comfort you or to honor your dead father. No, David sent his servants to spy on you and your land. He really wants to destroy your country." So Hanun arrested David's servants and cut off their beards. Hanun also cut their clothes off at the hip and sent them away. David's men were too embarrassed to go home. Some people went to David and told him what happened to his men. So King David sent this message to his men: "Stay in the town of Jericho until your beards grow again. Then you can come back home." The Ammonites saw they had caused themselves to become hated enemies of David. Then Hanun and the Ammonites used 75,000 pounds of silver to buy chariots and chariot drivers from Mesopotamia. They also got chariots and chariot drivers from the towns of Makkah and Zobah in Aram. The Ammonites bought 32,000 chariots. They also paid the king of Makkah and his army to come to help them. The king of Makkah and his people came and set up a camp near the town of Medeba. The Ammonites themselves came out of their towns and got ready for battle. David heard that the Ammonites were getting ready for war, so he sent Joab and the whole army of Israel to fight the Ammonites. The Ammonites came out and got ready for battle. They were near the city gate. The kings who had come to help stayed out in the fields by themselves. Joab saw that there were two army groups ready to fight against him. One group was in front of him, and the other group was behind him. So Joab chose some of the best soldiers of Israel and sent them out to fight against the Aramean army. He put the rest of the Israelite army under his brother Abishai's command. These soldiers went out to fight against the Ammonite army. Joab said to Abishai, "If the Arameans are too strong for me, you must help me. But if the Ammonites are too strong for you, I will help you. Let's be brave and strong while we fight for our people and for the cities of our God. May the Lord do what he thinks is right." Joab and the army with him attacked the Aramean army. The Arameans ran away from Joab and his army. When the Ammonite army saw that the Aramean army was running away, they also ran away. They ran away from Abishai and his army. The Ammonites went back to their city, and Joab went back to Jerusalem. The Aramean leaders saw that Israel had defeated them, so they sent messengers to get help from the Arameans living east of the Euphrates River. Shobach was the commander of Hadadezer's army from Aram. Shobach also led the other Aramean soldiers. David heard the news that the Arameans were gathering for battle, so he gathered all the Israelites. David led them across the Jordan River, and they came face to face with the Arameans. David got his army ready for battle, and they attacked the Arameans. The Arameans ran away from the Israelites. David and his army killed 7,000 Aramean chariot drivers and 40,000 Aramean soldiers. David and his army also killed Shobach, the commander of the Aramean army. When Hadadezer's officers saw that Israel had defeated them, they made peace with David. They became his servants. So the Arameans refused to help the Ammonites again.